They found my sister's body on Christmas Eve, frozen in the snow behind the old Riverside church. She'd been missing for 3 days. The police said hypothermia, but they were wrong. I know because I received her Christmas card this morning, postmarked December 26th, 2 days after she died. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. My sister Emma and I had always been close, sharing everything from childhood secrets to adult anxieties. Last December, she moved into the old Thornwood Apartments downtown, a building with a reputation whispered about in hushed tones by locals who'd lived here long enough to remember. I'd warned her about the place, told her about the disappearances in the 70s, but Emma laughed it off as superstition. The first week of December, Emma called me excited about her neighbor in apartment 4B, an elderly woman named Mrs. Halloway who'd invited her for tea. Emma described her as sweet, lonely, someone who reminded her of our grandmother. She started visiting Mrs. Halloway every evening, sometimes staying until midnight. I noticed Emma growing pale, losing weight, but she insisted she was fine, just stressed about work. On December 21st, Emma's voice on the phone was different, hollow and distant. She told me Mrs. Halloway had shown her something wonderful, something that would change everything. She said the old woman had a collection of Christmas cards dating back decades, each one containing a secret. When I asked what kind of secret, Emma whispered, "The kind that lets you live forever, but not in the way you'd want." That was the last coherent conversation we had. The next day, Emma sent rambling texts about mirrors and reflections, about how Mrs. Halloway wasn't really Mrs. Halloway at all, but something that wore her skin like a coat. She wrote that the Christmas cards were invitations, and once you accepted one, you became part of the collection. I rushed to her apartment, but she was already gone. The police search turned up nothing for 3 days until a groundskeeper found her behind the church, her face peaceful despite the horror of her death. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. At her apartment, the police found no evidence of Mrs. Halloway in 4B. According to building records, that unit had been vacant for 15 years. The last tenant was an elderly woman who died in the apartment on Christmas Eve, 2008, her body undiscovered for weeks. This morning, Emma's Christmas card arrived. The front showed a Victorian winter scene, children skating on a frozen pond. Inside, in Emma's handwriting, it read, "Dearest brother, I'm home for Christmas, just not the home you remember." Mrs. Halloway kept her promise. I'll live forever in these cards, in these moments frozen in time. Every year, I'll send you one, so you'll never forget me. Love always, Emma. But there was something else, something that made my blood turn to ice. At the bottom of the card, in different handwriting, elegant and spidery. She was such lovely company. I do hope you'll visit sometime. I have so many cards left to fill, and Christmas is such a special time for collecting. Your sister speaks of you often. Apartment 4B. The door is always open. MH. I went back to Thornwood Apartments yesterday. Stood outside in the snow, staring up at the 4th F. Lower. The windows of 4B were dark, but I swear I saw movement behind the glass, a pale face watching me. And then I saw her, Emma, standing in the window, holding what looked like a Christmas card, beckoning me to come inside. I ran. God help me. I ran and I haven't stopped running since. But here's the thing that keeps me awake at night, the thing that has me checking my mailbox with trembling hands. Every year, people go missing around Christmas in this town. Not many, just one or two, but it's been happening for decades. And I wonder how many Christmas cards Mrs. Halloway has sent over the years, how many frozen moments she's collected, how many souls are trapped in her eternal December. The worst part? I'm starting to forget what Emma's real voice sounded like. All I can hear is the hollow echo from that last phone call. And I wonder if that's part of her curse, to fade from the memories of the living until all that remains is a Christmas card in a box of forgotten mail. Every Christmas Eve, something knocks on doors in Millbrook Falls. Always 3 times. Always at 3:33 a.m. And if you're foolish enough to answer, you'll wish you'd never been born. The legend started in 1952 when the Henderson family was found dead in their home on Christmas morning, their faces frozen in expressions of absolute terror, their eyes wide open, staring at the front door. The police found no signs of forced entry, no evidence of foul play, just 4 bodies arranged around the living room as if they'd been watching something perform. The only clue was three evenly spaced dent marks on the front door, as if something had knocked with incredible force. I'm Sheriff Tom Reeves, and I've been trying to protect this town from the Christmas visitor for 20 years. My father was sheriff before me, and his father before him. It's a family curse, you might say, knowing the truth while everyone else pretends the disappearances and deaths are coincidences. The pattern is always the same. The visitor targets one house each year, always a family with children, always on Christmas Eve. The knocking comes at 3:33 a.m., 3 thunderous pounds that wake the entire household. Most families have learned to ignore it, to huddle together in their beds, covering their ears and praying for dawn. Those families survive. But there's always someone new to town, someone who doesn't know the rules, someone who thinks it's a neighbor in distress or a prank by teenagers. Last year, the Morrison family moved here from Seattle. Mark and Jennifer Morrison, along with their 2 kids, 8-year-old Sophie and 5-year-old Jake. They'd bought the old Whitmore house on Elm Street, a beautiful Victorian that had been empty for a decade. I tried to warn them, stopped by in November with a vague story about keeping their doors locked on Christmas Eve, but Jennifer laughed it off, assuming I was talking about burglars. I should have been more direct. God forgive me. I should have told them the truth. Christmas Eve came, and I sat in my patrol car outside their house, my shotgun loaded with salt rounds and blessed iron filings. My grandmother, who'd seen the visitor once and lived to tell about it, swore these were the only things that might slow it down. Might. Not stop it. Nothing stops the Christmas visitor once it's chosen its target. At 3:33 a.m. precisely, I heard it. 3 knocks that echoed through the silent street like thunder. The sound was wrong, somehow too deep, too resonant, as if it came from somewhere beyond our world. I saw lights flick on in the Morrison house, heard a child crying. I was out of my car in seconds, running toward the house, shouting for them not to open the door. But Mark Morrison, groggy and confused, was already turning the deadbolt. I saw his hand on the knob through the window. "Don't!" I screamed, but it was too late. The door swung open. What stood on that porch wasn't human, though it tried to be. It wore the shape of a man, tall and thin, dressed in a red suit that looked like it was made from something organic, something that breathed and pulsed. Its face was Santa's face, but wrong. The beard made of white, writhing tendrils, the eyes too large and too black, reflecting nothing. Its smile stretched too wide, showing too many teeth. "I've come to see if you've been naughty or nice," it said, and its voice was like wind through a graveyard, like the death rattle of 1,000 throats. I fired my shotgun, and the thing recoiled, its form flickering like a bad transmission. Mark slammed the door shut, and I heard the family screaming inside. The visitor turned to me, its head rotating 180 degrees, and laughed. Then it simply faded away, melting into the shadows like it had never been there at all. I got the family out that night, made them stay at the station. Mark kept asking what that thing was, why it had come to their home. I told him the truth, finally, about the Christmas visitor and its century-long reign of terror over our town. About how it feeds on the fear of children, how it collects their screams like we collect ornaments. The Morrisons left town the next day and never came back. But here's the thing that haunts me. The visitor keeps coming back because it's following a list written in 1952 by a man named Christopher Kringle, who went mad and murdered his family before hanging himself from the town's Christmas tree. Before he died, he wrote in blood on his living room wall, "I will return every Christmas Eve until every child in this town has seen my face." We've managed to save most families over the years, but not all. The visitor has claimed 37 victims since 1952, all children, all found dead with that same expression of terminal fear. Their bodies are never harmed physically, but something is gone from them, something essential. The coroner always writes heart failure on the death certificates, but we know better. This year, I'm retiring. I can't do this anymore. I can't spend another Christmas Eve patrolling the streets, praying I reach families in time. But I worry about who will protect them when I'm gone, who will believe the story and take up this burden. Because the Christmas visitor doesn't stop. It doesn't forget, and it always keeps its promises. The antique Advent calendar appeared in the Wilson family's attic without explanation, a beautiful wooden box with 24 small doors, each carved with intricate winter scenes. Laura Wilson discovered it while searching for Christmas decorations, and despite her husband's protests, she brought it downstairs for their daughter Mia's 7th Christmas. The calendar was exquisite, clearly handmade, with each door numbered in gold leaf. The wood was dark, possibly mahogany, and warm to the touch despite having been in the freezing attic. On the back, burned into the wood in old-fashioned script, were the words, "Open one door each day, and your greatest wish will come true by Christmas Day." Mia was delighted. Her greatest wish, she'd confided to her mother, was for her parents to stop fighting, for their home to be happy again. Laura and James were on the brink of divorce, their marriage crumbling under the weight of financial stress and bitter arguments. Perhaps, Laura thought, the calendar's promise was just what they needed, even if it was only a child's fantasy. On December 1st, Mia opened the first door. Inside was a tiny wooden figure of a child holding a candle. That night, the arguing stopped. James came home from work early, smiling, and suggested they all make dinner together. Laura felt a warmth spread through their home that had been absent for months. December 2nd brought a figure of two adults holding hands. James kissed Laura that morning. Really kissed her, for the first time in a year. The calendar was working, Laura thought. Or perhaps it was just coincidence, but she didn't care. Each day brought a new figure and a new improvement in their lives. December 5th, a figure of a family around a table, and that night they had the best dinner conversation in years. December 10th, a figure of someone receiving money, and James got an unexpected bonus at work. December 15th, a figure of people dancing, and they attended a holiday party where they laughed and held each other like newlyweds. But then Mia started changing. She spent hours staring at the calendar, whispering to it when she thought no one was watching. Her eyes took on a distant quality, and she began sleeping with the calendar beside her bed. When Laura suggested putting it back in the attic, Mia threw a screaming F at unlike anything Laura had seen before, her voice taking on a strange, deep quality that didn't sound like a child at all. December 20th arrived, and the figure behind that door was different. It was twisted, wrong, a hunched creature with too many limbs. That night, Laura awoke to find Mia standing over her bed, holding the calendar, her face expressionless in the moonlight. "Only 4 more days," Mia whispered. "Then the price is paid, and everything stays perfect forever." Laura tried to take the calendar away, but it was stuck to Mia's hands, the wood seeming to grow into her daughter's skin. James couldn't see it, insisted Laura was being paranoid, that the calendar was just a toy. But Laura knew better. She'd started researching and found articles about a family in 1923 who'd owned an advent calendar matching this description. On Christmas Day, they'd been found dead, their bodies mummified, their faces frozen in blissful smiles. The calendar had been missing. December 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Each day brought more horror. Laura saw shadows moving inside the calendar's remaining doors, heard whispers coming from the wood. Mia was no longer Mia, but something wearing her daughter's face. She spoke in riddles about sacrifices and eternal happiness, about how some gifts require payment in blood and years. On Christmas Eve, Laura made her decision. While James slept, drugged with sleeping pills in his evening cocoa, and Mia was mesmerized by the calendar's penultimate door, Laura grabbed an axe from the garage. She had to destroy it before Christmas Day, before whatever horror lived inside that final door was released. The calendar fought back. The wooden figures from previous doors crawled out, tiny golems that swarmed over Laura, biting and clawing. Mia screamed in a voice that shook the house, a voice of rage and ancient hunger. But Laura didn't stop. She brought the axe down again and again, splitting the calendar into pieces. The explosion of light and sound knocked Laura unconscious. When she woke, it was Christmas morning. James and Mia were standing over her, concern in their eyes, their real eyes, human and warm. The calendar was gone, just splinters of wood scattered across the floor. Mia hugged her, crying, saying she'd had terrible nightmares but couldn't remember them clearly. Their marriage didn't magically fix itself. The money problems didn't disappear. But they were. Together, they were real, and they were free. Laura swept up the splinters and burned them in the fireplace, watching as green flames consumed the cursed wood. But sometimes, late at night, Laura still hears whispers from the attic, and she wonders if she really destroyed it, or if it's just waiting, reconstituting itself in the darkness, ready for another family to discover it and make a wish. Because the cruelest thing about the Advent calendar wasn't the horror it contained, but the fact that it really did grant wishes. It really did make families happy. It just never mentioned the cost of that happiness, or that payment would be due on Christmas Day. And now, as they sit together on Christmas morning, truly together for the first time in years, watching Mia open her presents with genuine joy, Laura realizes something beautiful. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't having every wish granted, but choosing reality, choosing struggle, choosing the messy, imperfect truth of real love over the perfect lie of magical happiness. They save themselves, and that's worth more than any Advent calendar could ever promise. The Christmas lights on Evergreen Lane had been legendary for 50 years, drawing visitors from 3 states to witness the spectacular display. But nobody talked about what happened to the families who lived there, the ones who maintained the tradition, the ones who disappeared when the lights finally went dark. I'm David Shun, and 3 months ago, my wife Rachel and I bought number 42, Evergreen Lane, a charming cottage with a white picket fence and a reputation we didn't understand until it was too late. The realtor had been nervous, mentioning something about a Christmas commitment, but we'd laughed it off, excited about our first home. The letter arrived on December 1st, slipped under our door sometime after midnight. Handwritten on aged parchment, it contained instructions. The lights must go up by December 5th. They must remain lit from dusk until dawn, every night until December 26th. The pattern must be maintained. Do not deviate. Do not question. The neighborhood depends on your compliance. Rachel wanted to call the police, but our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, explained over tea that the Christmas lights on Evergreen Lane weren't just tradition, they were protection. 50 years ago, something came to Evergreen Lane on Christmas Eve, something drawn by the darkness of winter and the despair of a particularly cold year. It killed 3 families before a man named Robert Marsh discovered that specific patterns of light, arranged in precise configurations, could contain it, trap it, keep it from spreading beyond our street. Every year since, the families of Evergreen Lane have maintained the light barrier, each house contributing their section of the pattern. The configurations were detailed in blueprints passed down through generations, sacred geometry rendered in colored bulbs and timed sequences. Miss one night, break the pattern, and the thing they called the December would be free to hunt again. We thought she was insane. We hung basic Christmas lights, ignored the blueprints she'd brought over, and went to bed on December 5th without a care. That night, I woke to scratching at our bedroom window, even though we were on the 2nd floor. The glass was frosted over from the inside, and in that frost, I saw a face forming, elongated and skeletal, with hollow eyes that seemed to see into my soul. Rachel screamed, and the lights of the neighboring houses suddenly blazed brighter, their patterns shifting, creating waves of illumination that swept across our home. The face in the frost recoiled, and I heard a sound like 1,000 voices sighing in disappointment. The scratching stopped. The next morning, we found the blueprints Mrs. Patterson had left and spent 12 hours hanging lights exactly as specified. Our section of the pattern was complex, requiring specific colors in specific positions, timers set to precise seconds, angles calculated to mathematical precision. It was exhausting and expensive, but as we worked, I began to see it. The pattern wasn't random. Viewed from above, the lights of Evergreen Lane formed a massive seal, an intricate design that pulsed with each timed sequence. Night after night, we watched our lights join the neighborhood's display, and night after night, we heard it testing the barrier. The December moved around the perimeter of Evergreen Lane, probing for weaknesses, whispering promises through the windows. It showed us visions of what it could give us: wealth, success, the perfect life. All we had to do was unplug just one strand of lights, create just one gap in the pattern. But we'd learned about the Hendersons, the previous owners of our home. They'd broken the pattern in 2019, deciding the tradition was ridiculous. They were found on December 26th, frozen solid despite the heating being on, their bodies twisted into shapes that defied anatomy, their faces, showing that they'd lived through every second of whatever the December had done to them. Other families on the lane shared their stories. The Lees in number 38 lost a daughter to the December in 1987 when a power outage disrupted the lights for just 3 minutes. The Johnsons at number 46 had maintained their section for 4 generations. Each firstborn taught the patterns. From childhood, this wasn't superstition, it was survival. As Christmas approached, something changed. The December's attacks intensified. It brought blizzards that threatened to knock out power. It sent animals to chew through electrical cords. It whispered to children, promising them wonderful presents if they'd just flip a switch. The entire neighborhood worked together, repairing damage, supporting each other, maintaining the pattern at any cost. On Christmas Eve, the assault reached its peak. The December manifested fully, a towering figure of shadow and frost that loomed over Evergreen Lane, its form constantly shifting between human and something impossibly alien. It spoke in a voice like cracking ice, demanding we let it in, claiming it only wanted to celebrate Christmas with us, to be part of our families. But we stood firm. Every house blazed with light, the pattern complete and unbroken. And as midnight struck, as Christmas Day began, something miraculous happened. The December didn't just retreat, it transformed. The malevolence seemed to drain away, and for just a moment, I saw what it really was. Not a monster, but a spirit of winter so old and so lonely that it had forgotten how to be anything but terrifying. The lights of Evergreen Lane, I realized, weren't just a trap. They were a remembrance, a yearly reminder that even the darkest things can be contained by community, by people choosing to work together, to maintain something larger than themselves. The December was part of winter's magic, the cold and the dark that makes spring precious, but it needed boundaries, needed to be shaped, and directed by human hands. As Christmas morning dawned, our street was covered in fresh snow that sparkled like diamonds. The December was gone, returned to wherever it sleeps between seasons, and Evergreen Lane was safe for another year. Rachel and I stood on our porch, exhausted but alive, watching families emerge from their homes to admire the display one last time before taking down the lights. Mrs. Patterson brought us cookies and hugged us both. "You did well," she said. "The pattern held. Welcome to Evergreen Lane. Welcome to the family." And you know what? Despite the terror, despite the sleepless nights and the constant vigilance, I felt proud. We'd protected something important, maintained a tradition that kept our community safe. Next year, we'll hang the lights again, and the year after that, and someday we'll pass the blueprints to whoever buys our home, keeping the knowledge alive. Because that's what Christmas is really about, isn't it? Not the presents or the decorations, but the choice to carry light into darkness, to work together against the cold, to remember that we're stronger as a community than we could ever be alone. The December taught us that, and in a strange way, I'm grateful. This Christmas, as I sit with Rachel by our fireplace, the lights of Evergreen Lane twinkling through our window in their sacred pattern, I feel something I haven't felt in years: genuine peace. We faced the darkness together and emerged stronger. Our first Christmas in our new home wasn't what we expected, but it was real, it was meaningful, and it was ours. The December will return next year, as it always does. But so will we, lights ready, pattern maintained, community united. And in that commitment, in that shared purpose, I found the true spirit of Christmas. The light we create together can hold back any darkness, no matter how ancient, no matter how terrible. We just have to choose to keep it burning. So here's my question for you, dear viewers. What would you be willing to sacrifice to keep your family safe during the holidays? Would you maintain the lights of Evergreen Lane, knowing what lurked beyond them? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Merry Christmas to all of you watching, and may your holidays be filled with light, love, and the warmth of family. May you never face the terrors we've explored today, and may your Christmas season be blessed with peace and joy. If you enjoyed these chilling tales, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. It helps us bring you more stories to keep you up at night. Until next time, stay safe, keep your lights burning, and remember, sometimes the old traditions exist for very good reasons. Merry Christmas and sweet dreams, if you can manage them.